Hello, Pod Smashers of the Internet, and welcome to another episode of
80-bit Pod Smash,
where gaming goes to grab a beer. We are your hosts.
Penguin and Termite. I am Penguin.
I am Termite, and we are a weekly video game podcast smashing together ideas that you care about with video games.
That's right, and tonight, in honor of the Game Awards, which just happened, we are doing a show about the Game Awards. We haven't actually done this yet. We've talked about the Game Awards. Let's keep the party going. We live tweeted the Game Awards, so now we're going to talk about what are the Game Awards, and we're going to have a couple of discussion questions. The weird thing about this is it's after the Game Awards for you guys, but before the Game Awards for us. So we don't know who the winners are yet, so we'll still be talking about the 2020 Game Awards as if it is a bunch of question marks. But we're not going to dwell too much on this year's Game Awards. We're going to be talking about the Game Awards as a thing, like its history and where it comes from and why it's important. So that is what you have to look forward to today. But
don't leave, because if there was a bunch of amazing, awesome stuff that was announced at the Game Awards, those announcements that happen that are kind of E3 level awesome, it might merit a bonus episode where we will go through everything. And if we don't even do it there, we have a news show on Monday nights over at twitch.tv/80bitpodsmash where we go through the weekly video game news and we can cover the announcements there. So you will find the announcements, the cool things, the new fun stuff. What we're going to cover tonight is the idea of the Game Awards, the history of it, and the things that are not really specific to the actual day.
That's right. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, we'll probably just commit to doing any relevant announcements in our news show tonight. So if you were listening to this before our news show on Monday night, then just stay tuned there. So we'll talk about all that stuff. So in the meantime, that's what we're talking about tonight, but we are where gaming goes to grab a beer. So what are you drinking tonight?
So I am drinking Three Notched. It's a brewery in Charlottesville, Minuteman IPA. And you might be asking yourself, why are you drinking a very normal mass-produced beer from a brewery that distributes pretty widely on a December night? And I will tell you the story behind it. And it's very much tied to my favorite thing. So hold on. Just hang tight. So this is what happened. My wife and I got away. We were gifted a 2-night stay. We could choose where we want to go. We planned this out months ago, and we chose Boar's Head Resort down in Charlottesville. And this is swanky, high-class white people, like tennis courts, golf courses, club, sports, all those things that you equate to the whole like club scene. That's like the old white dude club scene. I don't know what you call that, but it's that. And it's so it's super fancy and nice. And it was a gift for us, so we can afford to stay here. We would not normally do something like this.
Country club, that's the word you're looking for. Country club.
Thank you so much.
You guys went clubbing? You went clubbing? You went to raving?
Country club.
You get a little bit of X, and
that's why I said old white dude clubbing.
Oh, I know. I was like, there is a word for that, but what is it?
There is.
It's different from going raving in New York City,
Yes, country club. Thank you. It's the country club vibe. So it's swanky. It's nice. I made sure I wore a polo, so I wasn't showing up in a t-shirt and shorts. It was pretty warm outside. So we go in, front desk, we check in. They tell us where our room is. They give us the rundown. There's multiple buildings. It's kind of like a campus. So they have different rooms at different spots. And then there's the restaurant, and there's the actual sports or the country club itself where you can get all your tennis rackets and golf clubs and carts and such. So we follow the map. We go around. And since we are not usually in this kind of environment, I'm always just I feel like I'm out of my skin a little, but I'm comfortable. I'm fine. So I walk in, we carry our stuff up the stairs, and of course it's pandemic time, so we all have our masks and stuff on, and we go into our room. We pop open the door. It's clean. It's made like it's supposed to be. It smells good. It's clean, like it's supposed to.
When are you going to get to the part with the beer?
It's right now.
Is this right favorite things, or is this a beer talk?
No, this is the beer talk.
All right, great.
So the reason why I'm drinking this beer is because, and the reason why I kept hyping up how nice it is because we open the refrigerator and there is trash left over from the previous tenants. And the reason why I mentioned the pandemic is because attendance is low. So we don't know how long that stuff had been in there. And it was a used sushi tray and then some sort of Danish cream cheese plate with a fork and a knife that was all just in the fridge. Luckily it was in the fridge, because if it was not, it would smell horrible. But also in the fridge was a half of a 6-pack, so 3 cans of Three Notched Minuteman IPA. and I was like, score, that is someone else's beer that they left.
Dibs,
and this is amazing. And I was like, I cracked it open immediately. I was like, Alex, you want one? She's like, no, I don't want a beer yet. And I was like, yes, free beer right off the bat.
So how's the hotel at all? How's the anthrax taste?
This is the last of the 3. I drank one each day I was there. And I saved this one for the podcast for that story to be shared and to go into my favorite things later. But,
nice.
Yep. So I'm drinking the Minuteman IPA.
Oh, so that wasn't your favorite thing. So you have a whole thing. So you get to talk even more about your awesome country club trip.
Yes, except I won't talk about the country club at all because that wasn't part of
gotcha.
I mean, that's just where we stayed. But,
I'm just giving you a hard time. I finally have some new beer as well this week instead of the, Blue Moons and crap that I've been nursing for the last few weeks. So I went out I had to go, it was a great excuse because I had to go get enchilada sauce for dinner tonight at Food Lion. Yes. So I was like, finally, I will volunteer to do this so that I can go grab some new beer. And this one I had eyed, the last time I bought beer, I had eyed this, but it was still kind of mid to late fall at the time. So I was like, it's not quite time for this kind of beer yet, but it is now Christmas. Officially Christmas season because we just finished Thanksgiving, so we are now officially rooted firmly in the Christmas, so I have absolutely no qualms about drinking this, and I probably wouldn't have had qualms about drinking it earlier anyways, but I got this beer that caught my eye. It is from Blue Mountain Brewery here in Virginia, and it is called Lights Out Holiday Ale. Ooh. 7% alcohol, great, it's about right where I want it, and I will read the bottle here. It says, cap off jamming that freshly felled Christmas tree in the corner with a beer that brings the holiday joy but won't turn the lights out on your taste buds. Sweet and malty with a hint of English hop spiciness. So this is definitely a flavorful beer. It definitely kind of hits in waves where at first you're just like, yes, that's an ale, kind of like that spiced ale flavors, and then you definitely get the hops on the back end. It's kind of like, woo, a hop. So it's good. It's good. I like it. I like it well enough. I wouldn't expect it to be as hoppy as it is, but it's still good.
What's it called?
Lights Out Holiday Ale.
I'm Googling it because it sounds right up my alley and what I want.
Yeah, you probably would like it a lot.
So for next week, when we do our Christmas episode, I'm going to plug that now. So next week, we are exchanging presents once again, just like we did last year.
I'll bring this. You can have some.
We're meeting in person. Okay. Mm-hmm. And that's fine. We will probably wear masks minus our beer sipping, and we'll be safe and make sure that we're not sick or anything. But there is a beer in my brain that I need to get and find so that we can have it as well. That you need. You need it. But anyway, I digress. Right, Blue Mountain Brewery is also in Charlottesville. It's close to where we stayed. And yeah, it sounds amazing. I really want to try this beer.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, Blue Mountain's great.
Save me one.
I'll save you 3.
Oh, shoot.
6 of them. No,
okay,
you can't
we're
have
doing
all
this.
3 of them. So we're doing it. All right. Yeah, cool. Well, we spent a little bit longer than we normally do talking about beer, and beer is one of our favorite things generally, but
doing this podcast is our favorite thing.
Doing this podcast is our favorite thing. Favorite things is the first segment of our show. You may be wondering, if you are joining us for the first time in a while, you may be wondering, where's the news? Why are you not covering news? Don't you guys cover the news? And the answer is yes, we do cover the news. We just don't do it in this show anymore because we found ourselves constantly covering outdated news from weeks ago, and it was cutting into our main topic time. So we decided, hey, why don't we spin off and do a new show? So we are now doing a live news show every Monday night at 8 p.m. and you can watch that at twitch.tv, or you can check it out later at YouTube. Termite will give you a quick rundown as to where you can find those things, and I promise we will talk about our favorite things.
You can find us at 80bitpodsmash.com. That's our landing website with links to all of our podcast platforms, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, etc., as well as our RSS feed that you can throw into any third-party app. Also, you can go to twitch.tv/80bitpodsmash, where we go live on Mondays, as Penguin just said, with a new show. And we also go live on Wednesday evenings to play video games with you guys. And those both days, Monday and Wednesday, are at 8 p.m. Eastern every single week. And you can also find our social media links, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Reddit, all 80-Bit Podsmash. So you can @ us on Twitter. You can find us on Facebook and join in on conversation. We usually have some subreddits posted on Reddit. You can interact with your crew with the Pod Smashers of the world. And we also have a Discord server set up where you can find links in all of our show notes too, as well as some of our social media platforms have links to Discord. So we are all over the place. Let us know your thoughts, questions, comments, concerns, and ideas.
All right, fantastic. So, favorite things, the first segment of our show is the time for us to share with you what we are excited about in hopes that you might find something similar as your next favorite thing. Go out and seek your next favorite thing and be inspired. So that is what this whole segment is for. And Termite, you were chomping at the bit earlier to talk about your favorite thing. So why don't you go first?
Yes. So in this 2-night getaway, my wife and I had a full day from morning to sunset to sleep time, with no kids, being able to sleep in and go to bed whenever we want and do and come and go as we please, which is absolutely incredible. I have a 5-year-old and a 16-month-old baby, and we never get a chance to go overnight. At least we haven't since the baby has been born. I slept until 8:50. That's my first favorite thing. It was amazing. I slept that late. Absolutely incredible. We were able to lazily go out to breakfast, where we saw a gorgeous view of the mountains sitting over a meal. It was okay. It was on the resort. And then we had the whole day to do what we wanted. So we decided to climb a mountain. So we took a 750-foot hike, less than a mile, very, very steep climb to the top of the summit of what is known as Humpback Rocks, somewhere off the Blue Ridge Parkway.
Yeah.
Does that sound familiar to you?
Absolutely. I grew up doing that hike.
Really?
Yeah. My grandparents used to take us on that hike. Yep.
Yeah. It was awesome.
Yeah,
so we had a blast. Great. We got all the way to the top, took some pictures. We did the thing. And then we got back, showered, cleaned up, and we went to Three Notch Brewery, which I know is a big mass-produced brewery. I've never been. There's so many microbreweries down there. There's so many beers that are it's ridiculous. And they're all so good. But this time, I'd been to some of those microbreweries before. This time I wanted to hit the obvious ones, the ones you see in the grocery stores, like Three Notched. I wanted to hit Star Hill, but we could not make it. So also part of my beer that I'm drinking tonight, right? They had Three Notch. They had this on tap, the Minuteman IPA. It's their like staple, but I didn't have it there. Then we had some food, moved on to Champion Brewing, where we also had another round of beers. So that's like 2 beer. I had 1 beer at each place. And then we went back to the downtown mall area of Charlottesville, and we went to the Whiskey Jar, where we actually shared an entree. So it was a really good idea to, like, if you're going to jump between restaurants, it's like, let's not fill up at any specific spot. Let's get a beer and like an appetizer and share it, and then move on to the next one. It's cost effective. You don't get bloated. You don't get drunk, and allows you to extend the stay. So all of that experience, being able to do all of those things with my wife and enjoy, I have not enjoyed my wife like that probably since like our honeymoon. It was amazing. We had an absolute blast together. We laughed, we joked, we poked fun at each other. Like, we didn't have these crazy, burden deep conversations that we have been having over the last couple of years. As whenever we find a date night, it's usually just for one dinner, and it's our one chance to talk about everything heavy in our life. So we'll just dump it all out, and it usually resolves in like a heavy, tough conversation. But now we had 3 nights, well, 2 nights in a morning, and it was just a full day of enjoying one another, happiness and love. Absolutely incredible. And I highly recommend it for anyone who can make that happen with whatever babysitting situation, or maybe you don't have kids yet, but want to get away. I highly, highly recommend. Yep. It was so much fun. And that whole event is my favorite thing.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Oh, yeah. I guess Charlottesville's my part of it, but really it was like, it was the getaway and the experience with my wife.
Of course. Yeah, that really made it. Yeah. But if you don't have a wife or don't have Termite's wife, you can go out to all those places at Charlottesville. Are all sound awesome. Sound like a blast.
So let me hear about your Humpback Rocks experiences.
Oh gosh, it's been forever since I've climbed Humpback Rocks. Yeah, I mean, I've very vague. It was when I was a kid, right? So I don't know if it was my grandparents specifically or if it was my parents who took us when we visited our grandparents. But I mean, we grew up in that area, so there's all kinds of hikes around there that I'm familiar with. But instead, I will talk about my favorite thing, which is not childhood rock climbing. And my favorite thing, there's a couple. And I'll talk about one only very briefly because you're probably sick of hearing about it. But I finished Rhythm of War by Brandon Sanderson, and it was that's all I can say. So much. It was a lot to process, but very good. And I recommend it.
How would you rate it with the other 3? Right?
That's what I'm wrestling with right now, is because it's a lot. Right? So like, yeah, it was good. Yes, it was amazing. Yes, there were awesome character moments and everything that you want out of the book. There were also a couple of things that I maybe I had too high of expectations, but there were a couple of things that I was like, oh, I feel like there were some wasted opportunities in the book, and I won't go into details because I don't want to spoil anything for anyone. Anyways, so the other favorite thing, the thing that I'll spend more time talking about is I finally committed and clicked the button and pressed and authorized the payment in order to get a new TV. I have not
got that 4K.
I have not bought. I got the Vizio. I got the same one you got actually, which is funny. But mine was, I guess, quote unquote used. It was an open box sale from Best Buy, so it had been used before in the store by the as a display device, I believe. So, anyways, it was the Vizio Quantum M series, as I believe what it's called. Yours is a 65-inch, mine is 55. So I got the 10-inch smaller one, but. It's awesome. I've never bought a new TV before. Like, I've never had a, like, new this year, or at least within the last couple of years TV. All the TVs I've gotten have always been, like, I mean, first of all, they've all been from the last decade. I mean, they were all from, like, late 2000s or maybe early 2010s. And all the best I've ever had was 1080p. And, they were fine TVs and good stuff. Never smart TV, never with built-in apps, never with, like, wireless connectivity and all that stuff. So... yeah, it was fun to finally, like, I did all the research. You helped me out a little bit in, like, trying to parse out what was a good deal, what was a good TV. And I'm glad I ended up getting the model that I did. I wasn't ignoring the open box sales, but I was really trying to get a new one on sale on Black Friday. But the TV I want, there were two TVs I wanted. There was this one and a Hisense H8G is what it's called. And neither of them were budging. It was like all the TVs that were on sale were either like the super expensive TVs that were like deeply discounted, like, but still out of my price range. Like, oh, this is a $2,000 TV for like $1,300, an amazing deal, but I still can't afford to drop $1,000 on a TV, right? So, and then the other sales were all like the low end crappy TVs where it was like, this is a $300 TV for $129 or whatever. And it's like,
right.
I don't want that either. I wanted that nice little low to mid range TV that would normally have been $500, but I wanted to grab it for like $399. And that's exactly what I got. Finally, it was the open box sale immediately after Black Friday. So this is like one of those things where it's like they took it off the floor after Black Friday and set it up for open box sale. And I was like, mine. So yeah, I grabbed it. It's great. So yeah, 4K. It's got that variable refresh rate, the HDR settings, all those things that I've never gotten to play with or see before. And I'm finally getting to do it for the first time with my brand new spanking console. And it's awesome. So for those of you who are still in, the Stone Age with your 1080p TVs, if and when you finally decide to get a PlayStation or an Xbox, a new console, I highly recommend getting a new TV to go with it. And if you want more specifics, I can give you the actual model. You can ask me on social media, and I'll give you the actual model that I got because I highly recommend this TV. It's a good TV.
It's a very good TV. So are you completely blown away then? Like you're happy with everything?
Well, so it's bigger than I thought 55 inches was. So it's sitting pretty impressively over my mantle, and it's definitely the biggest TV I've ever owned, which is pretty cool. And yeah, I mean, it looks good. I mean, I can't, I'm a kind of graphics dummy. So like, I know all the stuff and I know what to look for and I know what looks good when I see it. At the same time, the primary game I've been testing it with is Demon's Souls, which is a very black game, just in regards to there's lots of blacks and shadows and stuff like that. So I don't know if I've actually gotten to see it, which is why as we speak, I am downloading Final Fantasy VII Remake to really take a game that I'm intimately familiar with the visuals on and see how much better they look with the HDR settings that I didn't get to take advantage of because I didn't have a good TV and I was running a PS4 Slim when I played that game. So this should be a noticeable difference for me. That
should not go unsaid. And that is, to our audience, you had a PlayStation 4 Slim. You never upgraded to the Pro, and you never had anything higher than a 1080p like TV. So you're getting not just one jump in technology, but two on the PlayStation side, or at least, it's a full jump, I guess. You didn't take the half step. And then with the TV, you're now taking the full jump from 1080 to 4K.
Yeah.
And that's going to be huge. That's awesome. And I'm very excited. I cannot wait to hear what you have to say about it.
Yeah, it's really cool seeing, at the very least, it's really cool seeing, I do see some improvement with Demon's Souls for sure. Like, so not only am I running it in performance mode to get the 60 frames per second, but even with the performance mode, I can still see some significant texture and resolution, changes. And I definitely have noticed it when watching TV. It's like watching shows as well. I'm like, we're just watching Rick and Morty, and like, the lines look sharper. You know what I mean? Like everything looks crisper and cleaner. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
And there was one other thing I was going to say about that. Oh, I played, so to let the audience know also, Astro's Playroom is 4K entirely and crisp and amazing. And I just fired up Ratchet and Clank today for the first time. Also, again, we both upgraded close to the same time. So I'd never seen Ratchet and Clank in 4K. This is the 2018 remake, right? 2018? Is that the right year that it came out?
Or was it 18 or 16? Yeah, I was going to say
16. Mm-hmm. So because I was used to Astro's Playroom, they have the same exact art style, right? It's the colorful kind of cartoony Pixar style. Astro's Playroom is infinitely sharper than Ratchet and Clank. In fact, Ratchet and Clank made me doubt I had a 4K TV for a little bit. Like, is the setting? Did something get reset? Like, I had to go look and make sure it was all like good, because Astro's Playroom looks that much better in 4K when a game can run natively at 4K. So it versus Ratchet and Clank, which is not like there's no, they've up-resed it some for PS4 Pro, but it's not a true like 4K 60 frames per second game like Astro's Playroom is. So yeah, there's also that too. So there's some limitations on the PlayStation 4 things, and I'm really excited that you have it. I'm glad we have it. I'm excited to talk about it. I care about this stuff now more than I have before, because I'm like you, like kind of a graphics dummy. It's like I'm not going to go out and spend $1,000 on a video card for my PC to get the best. And I don't have a 4K monitor. And so anyway, we're both in the same boat. And I've had a PS4 Pro for 3 years and never experienced 4K. I just like the extra frame rates, and now I get all of it too. So anyway, it's good. Favorite things.
All right. Well, then that leads us to our next segment, which is DLC. DLC stands for downloadable content, and it is because both of us are named Dan in real life, and this is loadable content for you. It's an extra little bit, an extra little fun discussion, and it's a conversation you wouldn't normally have about video games. Last week, we did, in honor of the Game Awards that was coming up, we did kind of our own wacky game awards, and Termite came up with which game would cause you to most likely throw your game at the television screen or your controller at the television
screen.
At
the television screen,
Yep. Mm-hmm. So that was what we talked about last week. So now it's my turn to come up with a wacky game award. And so and then we get to pick one from this year. It has to be from 2020. And we will talk about what game wins this award. And so my wacky game award category for this week is which game character is most likely to take you out to a nice dinner, all expenses paid, wine you and dine you, and give you a good time. just take you out on a nice date. Which game character is most likely to have the means and the desire to do that? This year of 2020. Answer. I don't, because I just came up with it.
Nice.
Let's think about what games came out this year. First of all, good lord. Obviously, Last of Us, Ghost of Tsushima. I think Jinsakai. Now that I literally just said Ghost of Tsushima. Final Fantasy, Aerith. Aerith's another contender. She'd take you out. On a nice date,
all right. Hold up. Before we get it. So the Final Fantasy VII Remake Aerith is not the same Aerith as the one in the original game. There's a whole giant in fact Famitsu had an article. I think it's Famitsu. I'm sorry if it's a Japanese publication. Posted this thing from developers of the game that actually said and confirmed the Aerith of Final Fantasy VII Remake is probably from outside of time and has already experienced the original Final Fantasy VII and then is in the Final Fantasy VII Remake game. Okay. Which is crazy. Yeah. So she's living this story again a second time.
So even more likely, dialogue interactions. She's even more likely to take you out and wine you and dine you because she has this breadth of knowledge. She's this basically cosmic
she knows the
being,
destruction
right?
that's awaiting every one of the characters.
So she wants you to. She would want you as a part of this world, I suppose, to appreciate the little things before the pain comes.
There's a lot of pain coming. Yeah. In Final Fantasy VII.
What else came out? Doom Eternal. Doom Guy wouldn't be likely to. What came out? Didn't something come out in February this year? Like, what was our February game?
Resident Evil 3.
Yeah, that's true. Jill Valentine. Yeah, Jill Valentine and Carlos are kind of the characters there. Or Nemesis. Nemesis might take you. Nemesis. What else? Hades is one of the Game of the Year contenders, but I'm not familiar enough with it. Gosh, what else came? Oh, of course, we get to this, and I'm blanking. I'm gonna say Aerith or Jin are kind of my two choices there.
And I am thinking of What is her name?
Dina. Dina?
Yes, thank you. That's exactly who I was thinking of. You are crazy. Who are you? Get out of my head. You already guessed on the news show earlier you wore holiday clothes to save time. And I was literally Googling who is the Last of Us Part 2 side character. Dina. That's exactly it. That's exactly who would do that. And she is always telling Ellie to stop caring about the worries of the world and enjoy her in this moment right now. Let it go and enjoy this. Let's do this. And she would totally
right. And if she were in a world where she had means, like if Ellie and Dina had gotten to meet and grow up in a world that wasn't ravaged by a cordyceps virus creature monster thing, then she 100% would be like, hey, I'm taking you out, I'm paying for everything, let's I brought you flour, you know what I mean, just make you feel so special. Because if she just if again she grew up in a post-apocalyptic world, and she still does that, but with whatever means she has available. So if she actually had means, 100%, I agree with you. All right, that's it. She's the winner. Yep. All right,
go. If you haven't played Last of Us Part 2, what really cemented this, there's two moments in the story, and one is very early in the game before big things happen, and then one is
near the end, right?
Between 2/3 through the game, when I don't think it's super spoilery, but you have a farmhouse and you experience interactions there. So I'll just leave it there to try and stay spoilery free. But those are the two really moments with Dina that you get that really solidify that she would totally win that exact award far beyond anyone else.
Mm-hmm. I don't know about far. Yep. I think that
Jin's a close second.
Jin's a close.
Okay, I'll give you that.
Jin is a close second, and I'll still stand by Aerith. Aerith would totally. I mean, she literally does that to Cloud, right? She literally takes him out on a date.
Yep.
So, but I know there's weird other
and even turns that traversal in Sector 6, I believe it is, when they first meet from the church down to the. Yeah, where are they going?
To
she turns that whole
5?
Thing into
right.
I think so. Yeah, because they're going from the her
home.
The church to
going
Sector
to her
5.
Home. Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And she turns that whole interaction into a date.
Aerith has that ability to take something that's dreary and dull and industrial and painful or whatever, and just turn it into something joyful. I mean, just the very fact that where she grew up is this slum, sector slum, poor rundown neighborhood, and then her house is covered in flowers and waterfalls and stuff like that. It's it's a metaphor for who she is. So, but I still think I agree Dina beats her just by a narrow margin there, because Dina does all that without being a basically supernatural being. So that's why I give it to her. All right, cool. That is our Wacky Game Award categories. Maybe we'll do this again. For another one. We'll do a part 3. It's fun. Yeah, it's a fun one. So cool. Then let's go on and go ahead and actually talk about our main topic, which is the Game Awards. So yeah, this is our Game Awards podcast. So we'll start with what is the Game Awards, and what is, I guess they're technically called the Video Game Awards, the VGAs, right?
Not now.
Oh no, they
are. At one point in their existence. Yep. At one point in the existence, it was the VGAs. Mm-hmm. But as we know it now, today, since
TGA, right?
Now it's TGA, the Game Awards. It's an annual award ceremony honoring achievements of the video game industry. It was established in 2014 by Geoff Keighly, Canadian games journalist who worked on its predecessor, which was the Spike Video Game Awards. That's what you remember as the VGA. It was gotcha. Spike VGA.
Yeah.
For over 10 years prior to. So from 2004 to 2004 or 2003 to 2013 or so, it was Spike sponsored. So Spike was kind of a spinoff of, what was the other channel? Do you remember growing up? I remember Spike TV came up out of the remnants of there was another.
I know what you're talking about, but it's blanking. I'm blanking right now.
I'm blanking. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. It's Spike TV sponsored the Video Game Awards, VGAs, and then now we have what's known as the Game Awards, which is very new. 2014 was in the PS4 and the Xbox One era. It's only 6 years old. This would be the sixth one. So this would be the 6th annual one that just happened. And so there you go.
Yeah.
That's the Game Awards.
It's definitely not the only Game Awards, or I should say, it's not the only Video Game Awards show. There's a bunch. I mean, but in the same way that there are a bunch of movie awards shows, you know what I mean? There's the Oscars and the Golden Globes, and then there's MTV's Movie Awards, which actually were my favorite growing up. I love the MTV Movie Awards.
MTV, that's Spike. Spike was MTV.
Oh, was it?
Thank you.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So, man, yeah, I really am reading your mind tonight, apparently.
You are all up in that mind.
But, so why are we talking specifically, though, about this brand of Game Awards show? And it's we were talking about it because it is kind of the, quote, Oscars of games, and it maybe not quite there yet in regard because video games aren't quite as widely recognized as the Oscars, but it is, or the Academy Awards, but it is trying to be that. Like, it's striving to be, it's not just this, like, it's not targeted necessarily towards gamers. Like, it's not trying to be like a games show. It's trying to be like a prestigious awards show, which is what Geoff Keighly, who is the guy who founded it, has been striving to try to give it the sort of the same prestige or as close as possible to that kind of level of prestige as
just like the Academy Awards are critics in the movie industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
the critics that judge, and we'll get into the process of how this works, that are involved in determining who wins the Game Awards. There's a little bit of public, like mass popular votes, and then there's the critics from the gaming industry from within. So it's the Game Awards are the award show of the gaming industry looking in on itself like those other things.
Yep.
They're like, you talked about other award shows. There's the BAFTA Awards. That's the British Academy of Film and Television Arts. They have a video game segment.
Oh, cool.
But that's a more broad. There's the DICE Awards. That's the Design, Innovate, Communicate, Entertain Awards. There's the Golden Joystick Awards. There's the South by Southwest Gaming Awards. There's a ton. But we're just talking about the Game Awards, which is what
it's
Geoff
the
Keighly
one that
has
we're throwing our hat into this one. We're throwing our hat trying to say this is the one that we want. we like, we watch, we enjoy, and the one that we kind of hold the most weight to. The winner of the Game Awards Game of the Year is usually the game that we are most interested in for that year. Almost like I would throw, it's probably about 30 to 40% of the motivation for me getting into the Souls games was because I was genuinely interested in Sekiro after it won the 2019 Game Awards. So
it did.
Yeah. Anyways, so let's talk history. Let's talk about where does the show come from, and briefly, we don't have to go super into it, but let's do a brief history on the Game Award.
Yeah, as we mentioned earlier, I'm going to read this from Wikipedia because it just says it perfectly well. So go check out the Game Awards Wikipedia page. But Keighly had subsequently worked on the Spike Video Game Awards, VGA, which ran from 2003 to 2013. The show was broadcast on Spike TV near the end of each calendar year and was designed to honor video games released during that year. Keighly served as the producer and often host for these shows, while the network had shown strong support for the award show through 2012, having brought Samuel L. Jackson to host the show. Keighly found Spike less interested in pursuing the 2013 show, partly due to the network seeking less male-oriented programming. Spike opted to rename the awards from VGA to VGX as to reflect that they wanted to focus more on the next generation games that were being ushered in by the onset of the 8th generation of consoles, as well as bringing comedian Joel McHale to co-host alongside Keighly.
Whom I love, by the way. Just throwing that
I don't know who that is. Yeah,
he's from he's the main character in Community. He had a show called The Soup or something like that, which was kind of like his version of like Tosh or whatever, but Joel McHale's got way more charm than Daniel Tosh does. Carry on.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just going to add my own, that's hilarious that Geoff Keighly broke away from Spike TV because Spike wanted to cater to a less male-focused audience, but Geoff was also wanting to do the same thing. And so, in the gaming industry in general has wanted to do the same thing. So it's kind of weird. I think Spike lost this for, if they would have just hung on, they'd have something here.
Well, I think, I'm not going to necessarily make up motivations for someone, but my impression of Spike TV is one of I get the impression it was a little bit more adolescent, whereas I think what Keighly was trying to make here, again, was something that was I want to celebrate this industry with the people in this industry for the industry, and then make it something entertaining that people want to watch as well. But the emphasis less being let's do a show, and more, let's actually celebrate this industry. I don't know.
Yeah. And I'm gonna read this last paragraph because this is really cool. It's how it started. So Keighly broke away from Spike. He had worked with several entities in the industry, including console hardware manufacturers Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo, and several large publishers, to financially back and craft a new award show, the Game Awards. With Spike's permission, he invested around $1 million of his own personal funds. I wish I had $1 million to support the new show, and was able to secure space at the Axis Theater in Las Vegas for hosting the live event. Without a broadcaster, Keighly and the other producers agreed to live stream the show on the console's networks and on Valve's Steam service to be able to reach a much larger audience than Spike TV previously had. So they just
forget the TV networks, streaming it, right? Like Twitch, they're primarily now doing it on Twitch. Yeah, so they've just entirely bypassed network television effectively, which is great.
Yep. Yeah, you can get it directly on all the consoles. You can
which
get
is how people want to watch it anyways, right? Like,
exactly.
That's how people want to watch it these days anyways. So it was a smart move even as early as 2014, and now in 2020, it's ubiquitous, right?
Yep.
So cool.
That's what the Game Awards this year, that's kind of the brief history of it all.
And if you're curious, because again, the big event that's happened since 2014 this year that is probably going to affect a large gathering of people is the 2020 Game Awards is not going to be live or held in a live theater. It will be a virtual show instead. So that's how they are kind of answering the COVID thing. So it'll look a little different this year, which is unfortunate, but I don't think it'll ruin. I think it'll still be plenty enjoyable. We've enjoyed all of the E3 presentation, the things that normally would have been held in front of large crowds. Like they've still been plenty enjoyable this year as well, even without the large crowds. So the energy might be a little different because normally you have Geoff Keighly in the crowd, working it and hamming it up. So that part of it probably will be missing this year, but that's okay. I think it'll still be a great show. So you guys will already have seen it, so we won't talk too much more about it. So maybe it was a complete abject failure.
He is constructing a stage. It will be live. He will be there in person, and he's working the pandemic to make it safe.
Yeah, for sure. So no, we respect that for sure. So all right. Yeah, usually just as kind of a side note, the show, or not a side note, but as sort of part of what this thing is it's kind of like a mini E3 in and of itself. It's all of the late year announcements will often be sort of saved for this show. So alongside there being, it's something like the Oscars doesn't have. You don't see new movie trailers at the Oscars. So this is really just unique to the gaming industry in regards to their awards show serves as also a platform for these developers and publishers to showcase some of their upcoming projects as well. So that is a thing that happens. So announcements will be made. It's very exciting. So we'll obviously talk more about that tonight when we know what they are.
Yes,
2 weeks from now.
Exactly.
So cool. Okay, my next question is, how do the Game Awards work? AKA, how are the winners determined? So again, and when you're talking about any awards show, it's very important. How does their methodology work? What does it look like for the winners to be selected for any Game Awards?
So, according to Wikipedia as well, because I have it here in front of me, I was looking at the Game Awards website itself. All of this is on thegameawards.com. So if you have any, extra questions or details that you want to have fleshed out, go check that stuff out. But Wikipedia's kind of grabbed the general process. So the Game Awards has an advisory committee, which includes representatives from hardware manufacturers, Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, and AMD, and software publishers, EA, Activision, Rockstar, Ubisoft, Valve, and Warner Brothers. This committee selects around 30 influential video game news organizations that are able to nominate and subsequently vote on the video game in several categories. The advisory committee otherwise does not participate in the nomination or voting process. During the nomination round, each of the news outlets provides a list of games in several categories. Games for the esports-related categories are chosen by a specific subset of these outlets. The committee compiles the nominations and selects the most nominated games for voting by the same outlets. And I'm not going to go back into the past because in 2019, things were changed and how the winners were determined. In 2019, winners were determined by a blended vote between a jury that comprises of the industry, and that's 90% of the vote, and a public fan voting, which comprises of 10% via social media. And the voting jury, you can go to thegameawards.com/voting jury. There are now 90-ish entities across the world from various countries: Denmark, Finland, France, Germany, India, Indonesia, Italy, Japan, Malaysia, Mexico, Middle East, Peru, Poland. I'm not reading them all. I'm just kind of skipping. South Korea, Spain, Thailand, Turkey, around the world. And of course, the United States. And so it's a global entity of jurors.
Yeah.
Yep. And those jurors are the ones that will vote on the nominations.
That makes me wonder, how different it's going to be this year. You know what I mean? In regards to the selections, because that's significant. That's almost double.
Yeah.
Previous years. They said 28 prior to 2017, 28 experts, and then in 2017 it was 50.
Yep. Now it's 90.
50, and then now 90. So that's really awesome. They're being more inclusive. That jump, this show is getting more and more popular, by the way, because looking historically, you've got, again, there have been, what did you say? This is the 6th, right? 7th Game Awards.
This is the 6th one. Yeah.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this will be 7th. This is the 7th one because 2014. Anyways, doesn't matter. The viewership here has grown from 1.9 million viewers in 2014 to last year was 45 million viewers. So they've made like significant jumps each year. It was like 1.9, then 2.3 million 2015, 3.8 million 2016, 11.5 million in 2017, 26 million 2018, and 2019 45 million. So it's kind of interesting that like the reason I bring that up is because like it seems like as the viewership grows, it seems like they're adding more and more panelists to kind of be representative of this, of how this goes. So I think, it's cool. I mean, I started watching with you in 2017. That was the first year that I was paying attention. So I'm about halfway through. Real quick, I do want to run through the previous winners since we do only have 6 of them.
Yeah.
But the first winner, the first game to win the game of the year at the Game Awards was Dragon Age Inquisition.
Yeah.
Then Witcher 3, to no one's surprise, won in 2015. Overwatch won in 2016. Breath of the Wild won in 2017. God of War in 2018. It beat out Red Dead Redemption, which was like a jaw-dropping moment for me.
And Spider-Man. That was a crazy year.
And then Sekiro, as I mentioned before, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice won the 2019 Game Awards. So it's going to be it's interesting. It's going to be interesting to see as this grows, as this show becomes more and more prolific. Like I said, as the panel has now gotten bigger, that's more voices that have more. Each individual voice has less weight, but the collective voice has more weight, and it's probably more representative of the tastes internationally as a whole. So, I think, in previous years, based on the winners of the first 3 years, I'm like, okay, I think I have an idea as to what they want. And then the winners of the next 2 years, 2017 on, it's like, okay, they're looking for this kind of game. But then the fact that Sekiro won last year, and then looking at the games that are on there that are nominated this year, I'm like, I would not be too surprised at like a sudden, we'll talk about who's on there, but I would not be surprised if something won from quote left field that is a little bit different from the kinds of games we've seen over the last 6 years. So cool. All right. Any other thoughts there about?
I was trying to quickly look up what Spike Video Game Awards viewership was, because this started at 1.9 million, and the Wikipedia article claims that was more than what Spike could reach. So I wonder what Spike TV's ratings were. And then, of course, this ballooned to last year at 45 million viewers.
Yeah, that's pretty significant.
That's insane.
Yeah.
And that's not on live TV. Like, we're not talking major cable networks. And so that's 45 million viewers, both in person and across the internet on all the various platforms. It is a huge deal. And this show has turned into like a spectacle, which kind of like E3 as well. So there's big announcements that are coming and have happened.
For the record, by the way, this year's Oscars, I just wanted like comparison of awards shows. This year's Oscars only had 23.6 million people watch. So
fewer than half.
And they said that this was a 20% drop from 2019's ceremony. So even last year, there were more viewers of the Video Game Awards or of the Game Awards than there were the Oscars. So that just goes to show like how this show is starting to gain more notoriety. And it's only been around for 6 years. So
it's part of the reason why we started this podcast, right? Video games are a big deal. They make big money and they are big in our culture and they influence so much and so many people play video games. This is a big deal. Like, it needs to be said more often in the world that yes, we have an award show that is beating the Oscars in viewership. Come on, that's beating Hollywood. There are people that are obsessed with celebrities. Like, celebrity culture is insane. It's huge. It's been around since the 40s, 30s, 20s. Like, and here we are with this brand new industry that started in the 70s, and we're already like creating stuff that like we're amassing an audience that's that much bigger. This is nuts to me.
Yeah,
and
it's pretty cool.
Video games matter. They're a real thing. They're not just kids' toys. Yeah. It's a thing in our culture and
want
art.
To celebrate them, and people want to, give notoriety to the games that deserve it, and give and to the games that have shown excellence, basically. So
yeah, exactly.
We're not going to go through all of the categories, but I did want to talk about some of the categories. There's so many. Some of the categories this year, obviously, there is the Game of the Year.
That's the big one. Yep,
that's the big one, and we'll go ahead and go through really quickly. We're not going to go through the nominees for each one, but this one is the one that everyone wants to know the nominees for.
Yep.
Obviously, by the time you guys are listening to this, you'll have known. But if you didn't watch it. If you didn't watch it and just wanted to know, the current 6 games that are up for the Game of the Year is Doom Eternal, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Ghost of Tsushima, Hades, Animal Crossing New Horizons, and Last of Us Part 2. So all those games came out this year. And those are the nominees, right? Those are the ones going head to head for Game of the Year. As I said, I would not be surprised if something like Hades or Animal Crossing won over some of those action story-based games that typically win these things. I wouldn't be surprised just because of the fact that panels broadened. So other categories are things like best game direction, best narrative, best score and music, audio design. They have a couple of interesting categories like games for impact, which is specifically about, like, let me see, I'll just read their description here. And it says, for a thought-provoking game with pro-social meaning or message. So that's like a fairly recent category. They also have one for ongoing games, because that's, again, something that you don't see in like the movies industry is a category for games that like have continue updates. It's that games as a service. So games that came out in like 2013 or whatever may still be up for games on best ongoing because of expansions and stuff like that. In addition to excellence, games that are like demonstrating design excellence, various categories of design excellence, they also have genre categories. So they have best action game, best action adventure, role-playing, fighting. A lot of those are categories that people vote on like online only, I think. And then they also have things like they do nods to the fact that the industry is more than just the games itself, but there's a whole industry around esports and streaming. So they have an award for content creator of the year. They have best esports athletes and coaches will get recognized and stuff like that. So it's a very broad category. And I just skimmed the surface, right? There's tons and tons of categories here. Let me see.
What I really like too is that like movies have like best actor, best actress, best supporting actor, best supporting actress, like the individual, not just the production. We have like the best performance. So for voice acting, we will nominate, like there's nominees this year for that. And there's also best audio design. That's an audio team. So that's a subset of the game. Best art direction. So that's the art direction. Like those things focus on the individuals that make the games and less so on a game itself, although it's a team effort. And so like art direction is a game. Score and music is an individual. And then best performance, of course, is an individual. So it does go across everything. It's not just the titles, but all those things as well.
Yep. So I wanted to get into I wanted to wrap up our conversation here, and I wanted to get into a little bit of, now that we kind of know some of the categories, I wanted to discuss sort of an opinion-based question for you, which is, how do you think awards should be categorized? And should we be focusing on genre excellence, or should there be more focus on design excellence, or is it okay that they focus on both? And what are some of those pros and cons of design excellence? Because this is different, right? This is different than what we see in the movie industry. This is different than what we see in other industries, other entertainment awards. You don't see movies being like, I guess sometimes TV shows, I think, have like best comedy versus like best, action show or whatever. But normally you just like, all of the movies are in the same bucket, and they're focusing more on what are the people that we award. So best actor, best performer, best director, best audio design. They should have one for best stunts, but we won't get into that. But, again, they want to focus on the art form and and so that's kind of the template that we see in other forms of entertainment. And though that is here and present in the Game Awards, you see, you can even just looking through the nominee categories, you can see that they are focusing on those design, excellence in design categories. But what you also have is you have a significant number of categories that are recognizing genre excellence as well. So I wanted to ask, kind of sit in there on that and say, do you think that they should be spending that time and effort focusing on genre excellence, or do you think it's better to focus on those rewarding the design aspects?
The difference between like movies and video games is video games has the heavy technical weight of programming.
Yeah.
And making a computer thing, like a software component, which has bugs and issues in and of itself. So that very nature distinguishes the movie industry from games. And I think the best way to highlight those is to have both the genres, because players play them. It's very active from the player perspective. And so the different genres are very different types of games. But also, I think it's important to award the best teams that can do the best technical excellence. And if you can make, a PS4 spit out The Last of Us Part 2, or make an Xbox, I don't know what game is like the best on the Xbox. Forza Horizon 4 looks absolutely gorgeous on Xbox One. Like if you can make those games sing like they do when it comes together as a conglomerate. So you have a whole music team, you have the whole technical design team, the art that is drawing the textures and writing the code, animation that happens. That's a whole art form in and of itself. And like we have an animated series category for movies that kind of highlights just that segment. But every video game is a piece of software that has been coded and mocked up and designed very specifically to do a certain thing. And so that, and the fact that players are interacting with this for hours on end, not just the 2 hours you would sit passively and watch something. And so to make an award show, it can be argued that maybe the Game Awards shouldn't look like the Oscars because it's entirely different, as I just highlighted. So like, what would the award show look like? What kind of categories would you have? What would you award? And I think what Geoff Keighly is doing is, Oscars are super formal, white shirt, tie, tux affairs with dresses. And there's a whole thing about the dresses and the red carpet and all of that thing. Like that's a cultural thing that happens. Everyone expects that. What Geoff has done is kind of dial that back. Now he's going to wear a blazer and jeans as programmers do, business casual kind of. And then we're going to add all of these exciting announcements and like big hit moments, big hype moments that come with video games. It's very unique to the gaming industry.
Yeah.
And then all of these categories that we just talked about, like some of the nominations, you need to focus on the teams that develop this stuff, but also the genres, because the genres are so different. I mean, movies have different genres too. You can have an action flick that's like a war movie. You can have a drama that's all like, there's not really any action in it at all. And you can have sci-fi movies. And so you have different categorizations of things, and that's fine. I think if it's genre defining, something should be recognized for it. And having like the all-encompassing game of the year or the all-encompassing like best actor or best actress that they have in those like regards. So yeah, it's a complicated question. I like the idea of just sitting here and kind of discussing it, but that's where I'm at. Like I want to be able to highlight the technical aspect of it as a programmer, as someone who has a computer science degree. Like I understand what it takes to make good code and what it takes to work bugs out and quality assurance and testing, and all that stuff needs to be highlighted too in a Game Awards that's very unique to the video game industry.
Yeah, I'm torn because on the one hand, I totally agree. First of all, I totally agree with you that games should be evaluated. It shouldn't just be templated. I like that Geoff Keighly has made an effort to not just try to copy the Oscars. I definitely think it's a foregone conclusion that the people who make the primary focus of the Game Awards should be celebrating the people who have made the games and the teams that have achieved the most, and therefore those design excellence categories are probably like they should be the kind of meat and bones of the show.
Yeah.
I could give or take the genre stuff though. Part of me, so one of the things that stands out to me about these categories is I really could give or take the esports stuff and content creator stuff. Part of me thinks what I would like to see in the future, I'm not trying to crap on streamers or on esports players at all. What I'm saying is they probably should have their own awards show. There should probably be an awards show for esports. There should probably be an awards show because then they could get the praise, they could cut, because right now the way it is kind of like sandwiched in there. They're like, and the winner of this, and then they have the guy come up and it's like, he's just talking to the camera as opposed to like, they don't get to come up on stage and really celebrate their victory. Right. So like there should be a space for that. And there should be a space for that with streamers as well. And so that makes me wonder then, taking that argument to the extreme, is like, well, could the genre categories have their own shows as well or be folded into other events? Like, what's the fighting game? Is it EVO? Is the fighting game tournament?
Esports.
Big esport tournament? Like, what if they folded that as part of that? Like, have a fighting game of the year event at EVO? Like, that makes me wonder if that would be, again, so that standouts in the genres could have their own space to really be celebrated, as opposed to kind of tacked on with the Game Awards, which are primarily rightly focusing on design excellence, kind of all around design excellence. I don't know. That's why this is really what inspired the show. Is this particular question made me wonder. Thought it was worth talking about. Like, do we have to? First of all, are there too many categories? And the fact that there are a lot of categories, is that taking anything away from the show. I think the show is great as it is. Don't get me wrong, but I do wonder if, it could be more focused on certain things and create new spaces for some of these other things to be recognized in a different way.
I mean, if we were cool enough, we would be nominated for Content Creator of the Year with our podcast. We could potentially be in that realm. So when you were saying you want to get rid of that, I'm like, I would love to hang in there for a little while. That's a dream right there.
It's a pipe dream right there.
But yeah, that's podcasters and Twitch streamers and such and YouTubers Content Creator of the Year. And they're all like drawing on the gaming industry to create their content. And so I get why they're there. And that, they do have, like Greg Miller won in 2015, and he had an amazing speech that was like a tearjerker about video games, and that was just awesome. And it really catapulted Kinda Funny and his entire brand into like major success because of the Game Awards. And I think that community adds a ton of value. So that's something that needs to be talked about. I don't know any other way to do it other than like the Game Awards. And that kind of gives the flavor to the Game Awards that Geoff Keighly, I think, is going for, to separate it from the Oscars, because you don't really get like a movie critic of the year or TV show critic of the year or music in the Grammys. Like, you don't get people who talk about movies and games and music. Movies, TV, and music, awarded something. But the community of game, because video games are so interactive, because the players are the major audience, and you spend so much time with these games. Because again, it's not passive. You don't just go to a theater, spend $20 for 2 hours and walk away. Like, you buy a console, you set it up, you sit with it for 20 to 70 to 150 to 300 hours, depending on what you're doing. And then that community of players coming together and playing together online, I think Content Creator of the Year is kind of the representation of the player base and what they're doing. So I think it needs to be here. That needs to be in the Game Awards. I am totally with you about the esports. I think that would be way better done on its own show. And that could be multi-genreal if you wanted to do it. If that's even a word, I just made it up. Like, esports could be fighting, esports racing, esports like arena shooters, etc. And they could all have their own thing and really give justice to the coaches and the athletes and the events and all the things that happen around esports. And what really here, the biggest thing that confuses me and confounds me, and I would love to have a discussion about it, is what is the difference between best action and best action adventure? Like, why is
and that's there? That's what bothers I agree. It bothers me that we already have some trouble codifying genres in the gaming industry. Some make sense and some are obvious, like fighting games, like sim and strategy games, sports racing games. Like, those are all very obvious categories. But action adventure, role playing, they're all very intentionally vague genre names in the first place. So those could be
like Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Origins is under the best action adventure, when you could arguably say and make a claim that there are more role-playing games than Legend of Zelda, like Breath of the Wild, which would be role-playing. Or what? There's so many RPG aspects to these adventure action games that having the genres are starting to blend. What does that mean?
Which partially, which feeds into my argument that maybe genres would be best left out just because they change so much over time. And good games are always blending genres anyways. So maybe there should just be maybe there should be a category for best genre innovation or something like that, but it doesn't have to necessarily be for each and every genre. I don't know. It's a good question. It's an interesting one, and one that we are only scratching the surface of. But I definitely think it was worth bringing up, and makes me wonder. I'm verbally processing now, which is a dangerous place to be. So, do you have any other thoughts with that, or any other closing thoughts?
Yeah, it's so best. This year, 2020, Best Action Adventure Game, Assassin's Creed Valhalla is nominated. Assassin's Creed Valhalla is an RPG, but it's not in an RPG category. Final Fantasy VII Remake is, but Final Fantasy VII Remake is just as much of an RPG as Ghost of Tsushima, Spider-Man Miles Morales, and Assassin's Creed Valhalla. So what's different about Final Fantasy VII Remake that puts it squarely in, pun intended, the best role-playing game category, when its action fight sequence stuff, combination of gear and leveling up and materia, is no different than what you would do in Ghost of Tsushima and Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Yeah.
So that's the genre blending that is confusing here. And I'm sure the nominees and the judges and the Academy or whatever you want to call them, they've probably debated all of this at length in and of themselves. So there's that too.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, that is an abrupt end to a very robust conversation.
Yeah, it's almost a genre conversation, which we have a show about.
Yep, exactly. So that will probably be where we wrap up, though, for the day. So we do want to hear your thoughts on this. Like, what do you think about the Game Awards? Do you think that it will ever achieve this prestige that it's searching for? Do you enjoy the show? Would you like to see it evolve into something more or less like what you see with other awards shows for other forms of entertainment? And what categories do you think should be elaborated on further, or should maybe be faded away to the annals of history as time goes on? And how do you think games should be evaluated in the first place? How do you think games should be recognized? And what categories should be recognized at these awards as they continue to refine and iterate this process? So you can share all of those thoughts and more in all the places that Termite will tell you about.
Our landing page, 80bitpodsmash.com, has a link to all of our socials, and that is Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Reddit. We have a YouTube channel. There's a link there as well you can comment on. We have a Discord server. The link is in all of the show notes, and on all of our podcast feeds. All the show notes are there. You can also find us right here at... Oh, we're not on Twitch. I'm sorry. You can find us at twitch.tv/80bitpodsmash on Mondays and Wednesdays, and you can find us everywhere. We're all over the place. If we're not where you want us to be, and boom, there you go. So let us know, and we'll put ourselves there. And we still have a promise to read any Apple podcast reviews that are left for us. So please go to your platform of choice and leave us a review. It helps the algorithms bubble us up. We have not gotten, and specifically on Apple, we have not gotten a review since August. We will read it on the show. You can embarrass us. You can troll us. You can praise us. You can hate us. Whatever you want, we'll read it here on the show live. And please do that. So subscribe to us, like our videos on YouTube, and hit up all of the social medias to help us get more exposure, to grow this wonderful community and have more people to interact with, more thoughts and ideas, questions, comments, and concerns.
All right. Well, next week, it blows my mind to say, but next week is Christmas week. So we'll be doing our annual Christmas episode, which will include a gift exchange. I have already gotten Termite's present. It is here and wrapped and ready to go. I'm on top of it. Boom.
You are on it.
And
And I have made the purchases. That's about all I can say.
On the way. Purchases. Ooh. And we will... We'll be doing that. Will be part of it, and then we'll also have a little fun topic, Christmassy themed topic to talk about as well. So that will be next week. You can look forward to that. Obviously, you can look forward to our weekly Wednesday live streams where we each take turns playing games. So I believe this upcoming week should be Termite, and he'll be playing something Wednesday. And you can check out all that content and more. It's all permanently on there in one form or another. So you can see all of our previous streams on YouTube, and you can see some of the more recent ones as recently streamed on Twitch. So, we'll see you then for our Christmas episode next week.
We will see you next week. Merry Christmas early!
Whee! Happy Game Awards!